To you all, representative of the Vice Chancellor, my own Provost, Prof. Yaro, representative of the Chief of Staff, representative of the faculty, the School of Social Sciences, deans, directors, heads of departments in the various units in the university, colleagues in the department, alumni of the department, postgraduate and undergraduate students of the department, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Pardon me, I didn't see Nana. I'm supposed to give a brief history of the Sociology department, the Department of Sociology. Before I start, let me give tribute to the late Professor Max Essimi. Professor Max Essimi, already in the 1970s, wrote two very important articles which made sure that the department's history was well documented. The first one was the foundation history, and then he wrote the sociology of Professor Kofi Ebrefabuzia. Subsequently, Professor Akosia Dakwa and myself recently in 2013 revised and expanded Professor Essimi's works. So we are grateful to these two personalities. Let me also say that we have details of the history of the department online, the latest that we have. So for those of you who want detailed history, just go online and then history of the Department of Sociology, Legon. You'll get a 20-30 page history. I only give a summary here due to the lack of time. As we well know, the University of Ghana was established in 1948. What is often not said is that the university was then located in Achimota. There was a college there. In 1949, the university invited then Dr. K.A. Buzia to become a director or head of one of the three departments of the School of African Studies. The School of African Studies. This is not to be confused with the Institute, which was established much later. The School of African Studies was established 1949 by the university. And then they invited Dr. K. Buzia to head the sociology divisions. There were three divisions: sociology, archaeology, and African studies. Unfortunately, because they were not getting adequate staff to head and teach the two other units or divisions, they called on then Dr. K. Buzia to establish the Department of Sociology, which was one of the three original units of the Institute of African Studies. So that in September 1950, the department was established, but it was based in Achimota. It was still based in Achimota. And Dr. Kofi Ebrefabuzia was the first head of department, as has already been often mentioned. Indeed, he was head of department from 1950 to 1957. The two first students included Mr. Kwesi Ampene and Mr. Austin Tete. They were later joined by K.E. de Graaf Johnson, J.A. Kwabena Nketia, and Cyril Forson. Astonishingly, all of them became professors in the University of Ghana. With Professor Austin Tete being a professor in planning, UST, the University of Science and Technology. So we started with 2 students, and then we were joined by another 2, and then another 2 to make it 6 by the end of the 1950-51 academic year. Another milestone is that in 1959, the department moved from Achimota to the current UG campus. And in 1961, we moved into this building. So we have been here since 1961. Some of the main characteristics of the pioneering courses or pioneering students were the department offered a 3-year degree course, BA Sociology program, and we also had, intriguingly, a BSc Sociology program. The BA Sociology program was meant for those who specialized or majored in sociology. The BSc was for those who combined sociology with other subjects from other disciplines. Later, of course, we know that the BSc course was cancelled, and it was then left with only the BA honors course. Of course, we should not forget that the department, including the University of Ghana itself, was under the tutelage of University of London. So in the first decade, the degree that was offered was University of London degree. And not surprisingly, a lot of the curricula here was also influenced by lecturers or was influenced by lecturers from the UK, I would say. Primarily Cambridge, Oxford, and London. The first 3 lecturers, as I mentioned, was Dr. Buzia himself. Then we had one Mr. David Tate, who unfortunately died whilst conducting us research work in the 1950s in northern Ghana. And then we also had Mr. Ankra, who was also part of the team. The unique thing about that time was that though they had a few lecturers, they had quite a number of visiting lecturers from many universities abroad who came here and spent some time. Professor Dr. Buzia was promoted to professorship level or status in 1954. And with that, he became the first in the university and the first, I think, also in Africa with respect to sociology. It's not very clear whether South Africa had a professor of sociology or not. They did it. So I would say that Professor Buzia was the first professor of sociology in University of Ghana and Africa south of the Sahara at least. From 1950 to 1957, Professor K.A. Buzia was the head of department. But we all know that he was very deeply involved in politics. In 51, 54 elections, 56 elections, he stood. And as a result, the university was asking him to make a choice. Of course, he found it very difficult because these were his two beloved professions, academia and politics. But eventually, he abandoned the headship of the Department of Sociology and then went into full-time politics. And we know that he later became Prime Minister and so on and so forth. So we owe Buzia quite a lot. After his departure in 1957, the department fell into a bit of a coma. As I said, most of the lecturers were expatriates, and the visiting professors were also expatriates. So they came here and served maximum 2 to 3 years. And then they went back to their respective universities, mostly in the UK and US. So we had Professor Neustadt who came here. We also have a few others who came here. It was not until 1958 thereabout, when the junior lecturers, the two, Dr. Cyril Fisher and then Mr. K.E. DeGraff Johnson, both of them became professors anyway. So they were mostly active until 1958-59, when Professor Abraham was recruited to complete a 3-year term. So Buzia's departure created a big gap in the administration of the university. Now, when we talk in terms of the interesting thing, I would like to quote what Prof. Simmons said. According to the students, what fascinated them most about sociology was that it made them understand Ghanaian society, especially social institutions. Secondly, sociology involved reading wide and objective thinking. Thirdly, sociology makes you socially aware. The student goes beyond what is apparent to what is real. The course also provided a meaningful interpretation of present social problems. And finally, sociological knowledge about not only about Ghana, but other societies were also provided. Different ways of life, and of course, the importance of theory and concepts. So with respect to the foundation years, these were the main views of the students. What the students didn't like at all was the ethnography and overemphasis on social anthropology at the beginning. As I said, most of those who were teaching here, including Professor Buzia himself, were social anthropologists. But they tried to, of course, they had command over the Ghanaian and African societies and institutions. But the course was a bit tilted towards social anthropology in many ways. They also didn't like the statistics. They thought it was too much. And when I read it, I said, this hasn't changed till today. So that was the situation with respect to the first, if you like, the first 1.5 decades following the establishment of the department. During the, what I will call the second phase, from about 1965, 1966 to about 1980, we have called it the period of indigenization and expansion of access to tertiary education in Ghana in general, but also in the department. During the first decade, the students enjoyed academic work, and from what Prof. Nukuya, the late Prof. Nukuya told us, life was very comfortable and pleasurable in the University of Ghana. But towards the 70s, conditions started deteriorating slowly. And this at a time that the department and the university had to indigenize. So with the indigenization, we simply meant that more and more lecturers, particularly those who went abroad to do their PhDs. In those years, we had Prof. Nukuya, we had Prof. Simen, we also had Mr. Nent, and a few others going towards the early 60s, 59, 1960s to study. So by the mid 1960, 65, 66, they had come back. So they came back and then they joined others who had PhD already, Prof. Fiawu and co, to strengthen students and teaching in the university. The staff strength increased from 6 to about 14 in 1965 to 66 academic year. This was the period during, of course, we all remember that in the late 70s and 80s, a number of lecturers left the university to teach abroad. And our own senior colleague, Dr. Oyinu Kumedu, mentioned during an interview the results of the acute shortage of staff in the department. According to him, he had to single-handedly teach 5 courses in the department in 1983 and 1984 due to the absence of lecturers. Nevertheless, the department was able to introduce new courses, including medical sociology, industrial sociology, rural sociology, and the department also had generous external funding for research into demography and population studies. The Department of Sociology also introduced the BA Sociology in Social Administration and Social Welfare degree. So it led to a certificate and a degree in prisons administration and then later police administration. The third phase from 85 to 2000 can be referred to as the period of rapid expansion and growth in the department. Students' numbers increased rapidly, but facilities could not match with the increasing student numbers. In 1990, for example, the total number of students reading sociology stood at 420. By 1997, this increased to 900 and 1,713 in 2000 and reached 5,652 by 2006. This at the time that there was not much expansion in infrastructural facilities. So that was the situation with respect to the period 1985 to 2000. Since 2008, there has been a restructuring, actually started around 2004, restructuring of the courses in the department. The number of students boomed, and the number of, we had almost 4,450 students, 46 master's students, and 16 doctoral students. Let me now turn to the situation since 2016, as I see it, most of which we have all witnessed. As indicated by the head of department, the current student population stands at 5,270. 2,600 in the main campus, 1,024 in the city campus, 1,634 in distance education. To conclude, I'll just make three short conclusions. The first one is that the relevance of sociological analysis in national life has become fairly established in the Ghanaian society. Today, the department provides basic training in sociology for a variety of professions in the university, including the medical school, School of Public Health, nursing, and faculties of agriculture, engineering, consumer sciences, among others. It has also been mentioned the various departments to which sociology contributes, so I will not belabor that point. We contributed to establishing psychology, and then we contributed also to ISA, to RIPS, a population. We were the first to be doing demography, population studies and demography here. Social work, of course, and then social policy by the late Nana. Currently, our student numbers have remained at the same level, 2,000, but a recent study that we conducted indicates that there is a general perception among humanities students that sociology is a difficult subject. Why? Because we have to read so much. So they prefer, and secondly, they don't get too many first classes in sociology. As in other, whether that is true or not, we do not know. But that's the opinion of the students. I'm sure when we contact our colleagues in geography, economics, political science, they will tell us a different story. Finally, in the University of Ghana, just as elsewhere, academic sociologists have been employed by other departments and institutes. Sociological analysis and studies are no longer limited to the Department of Sociology. One effect of this is a growing multidisciplinary approaches to the study of society, as well as classical sociology and anthropological topics such as marriage and the family, gender, urbanization, migration, ethnicity, etc. Furthermore, the relevance of sociology has become well accepted, such that it is today unimaginable for any major project to be undertaken without the participation of a qualified sociologist. It is to the credit of sociologists and the sociological imagination that the significance of examining the social context of any enterprise has become widely accepted in Ghana. Thank you very much for your attention.